Welcome, everyone, to the Leadership in Quarters podcast, the interview series, where we have professionals from different industries here to discuss leadership from their experience and their perspective. So today is episode 1, and we have Urmi Hossain here with us. A little bit about her before we get started. She is a Bengali Italian who lives in Montreal, Canada. She's a blogger, a YouTuber. She's a published author, a speaker, and a mentor. And she's an advocate for women's empowerment and an active member of Toastmasters. She's currently volunteering as a social media lead for the organization that's called Women in Leadership, where her and her team of other women promote topics related to women's empowerment and gender equality. And all of these links to both Urmi's background and Women in Leadership will be added here at the YouTube channel. So welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah. So glad to have you here. First guest for this leadership podcast, and very, very happy to have someone with your resume here to talk with all of the listeners.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yeah. All right. So we'll get started. With your background, what difficulties, if any, have you faced as you became a strong leader in a culture that may be different from your own?
So I've been working in the industry for about 7 years. And I always used to think that, leadership comes with a title. And that's what I also grew up thinking. Like often when you look at companies, that's what they tell you. Like someone who is a senior VP, someone who's the VP, someone who's the manager is known to be a leader. But as I grew in my role, as I've been working in the industry for a long time, I realized that, leadership is really not about the title. It's about the actions, and it's about, inspiring people. And I worked for several companies, and I used to think that, for me to become a leader, I just had to get on the next level, which is partially true. It is true. It's when you become senior, it's when you become manager. But I also learned that, leadership is really not about that, but it's about, inspiring people, making an impact, inspiring the team that you work with. And that's how I basically evolved. So that's how I understood that that's the challenge that I had to overcome, that, it's really about making a contribution, inspire the team that you work with to be the best version of themselves. So for me, that was pretty much the challenge that I had to face. And through the years, one thing that I came to realize was that, when you go to an interview, they always ask you that question, oh, where do you see yourself after 5 years? And I'm pretty sure everyone says, oh, I want to be a manager. I used to say the same thing because I thought that shows, my progression, me wanting to stay for the company, me wanting to become a leader. But through the years, I realized that, I don't even know why I gave that answer. And I came to say that, I have no interest in becoming a manager. I have no interest. I am happy with the role that I have, because even in the little role that I have, I know that I can be a great leader. So that's how I evolved or understood better this concept.
That's great. And, we talk a lot about inspiring our teams and being a leader versus a manager. And it's refreshing to hear, that side of it, and that's your focus, because the people do a lot for us. And if we can't inspire them and empower them, we won't get anywhere with our companies.
Exactly.
With all of your work with women's empowerment and gender equality, have you seen the gender equality gap close over the years with regards to leadership?
Yes and no. I can see, even in the financial sector, I can see there are a lot more women in leadership roles, but still it's not enough. I don't think we're doing enough of a job, because I think in many sectors, especially in the financial one, you still see that gap. You always see that people in the management position or people in the leadership position are typically men. And that's because the world is made by default for men. Nothing against it, but it's unfortunately we still have that disequilibrium. We don't have that many women in leadership positions, and I can say that it's always 10 times harder for a woman to make herself stand out, and that's because comes from the fact that a lot of women take time off, to take care of family and stuff like that. So there is a setback, so they are not able to advance and move forward. And unfortunately, I do still see this gap, and I think we need to work harder to close this gap and to be like on an equal position. And this is also some of the things that we do in the Women in Leadership organization. We try to educate the women that are part of the community to basically, stand up for themselves, to take actions, to speak up when they're not happy, if they want to like grow in their career. Because I think it's a woman that like it's a problem that women face, but I always say that men are part of the solution. So we need to collaborate together to close this gap. I do think it's still gonna take a little bit of time because we still hear this, we still hear this in the industry, how it's difficult, like even with the pay and like, the salary differences, we still see it. And I think we still have to make an effort to close this gap.
Right. So with men being the solution and all of us being the solution, for myself and for the listeners, is there anything intentional that we can do to help bring more women into leadership?
I always say it starts from home. Like, I think the first place where you start educating and teaching people, it starts at home. You can start helping your partner, the woman in your life, like your mother, your sister, your daughter. And I always say like the focus should be in the younger generations, because these are the people like who will pave the way, who will be running the society. And so I always say that it starts with the little actions. And I think like starting from home is the first place. And also to be aware of the people that you work with. Like if you work in the corporate world, your coworkers you will have typically a female coworker. To be aware of that, to be flexible, to be accepting if, if she needs to leave early, if she needs some particular accommodations.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a lot that we can do to help empower both, gender and minorities into leadership positions that we have here. I know in the industries that I've worked in, there's a lot that we've done, but there's a lot more that we can still do to get everybody on level ground.
Yeah.
So I have been to the Women's Empowerment and Women Leadership Foundation website. So great website. Hopefully everybody checks that out. And again, we'll have the link to that website here. But with your experience with that organization, how have you seen yourselves empower and energize the women as they look for more leadership positions?
So at the Women in Leadership organization, we basically have like 7 chapters, and I volunteer for the one in Victoria, even though I'm based in Montreal. And some of the things that we do throughout the years is organize webinars. We provide webinars about different things like public speaking. We talk about how to use LinkedIn. We talk about career growth. And then we also have a leadership development program that women can enroll to. So if they want to it's a 6 months program, if I'm not mistaken. And these women are being taught about leadership. And then we also have mentoring program. So the mentorship program is something that I think it's valuable, because this is how we've been able to educate the women. Like I'm a mentor myself, and I was a mentee myself as well. But I think with mentorship, we're able to build the connection, we're able to share ideas, we're able to connect better with the women in the community, and we're able to better serve them, because often they have their own needs, they have their own struggles, and they just need a little bit of guidance. And so this is how we've been empowering women to, be unapologetic, be bold, be assertive. And we teach them that, you should not have that imposter syndrome that we often hear about, right? Like people, like women, typically they don't believe in themselves. So we teach them to be much more confident and to have self-belief. And so basically mentorship has been, I would say, it's something that has made a drastic change in the women's life.
That's great. Do you have any success story that sticks with you from the mentorship program, either with you being the mentor or the mentee?
I do have one. Because I typically mentor like young females. And I have one, like I mentored this girl for like a year, I think, and we still stay in touch. We still talk to each other, and it's been a great experience because she's very proactive, she's very energetic, enthusiastic, and that's the kind of like people that you look for. Because often in mentorship, there's always that misunderstanding that it's like a one-way relationship, that only the the benefits, but it's a two-way relationship because both parties are able to learn from each other. And I always think that, again, it goes back to that concept of leadership. It's not about title. Like me, myself, being a mentor, I can learn so much from my mentee as well. Like it's about the experiences and the ideas they can share. And so this girl, she basically want to work in finance. She's studying finance and she wants to work in finance. So I've been like teaching her like how to look for a job, how to like sell herself in an interview. And it's been great because I could see the evolution in her and the transformation to the person that she is right now. But there's still a lot to do because she's really young. She's in her 20s and so on. But if there are things that she wants to do, like if she wants to try new things, I always encourage her, go ahead and try them. Because it's also about trial and error, like life is about making mistakes, it's about trying things, and then you learn from these experiences. And so that has been I would say, my greatest mentoring experience because I loved seeing the energy in her and the drive. And I was like, oh my gosh, we just need more women like you in this industry. So I kept telling her to be this kind of person, to keep going, to looking forward to things. And that's how she would grow.
And hopefully that momentum keeps going. That's awesome to hear.
Yeah.
For any of the listeners, if they want to get involved in the Women in Leadership Foundation, is there any specific way for them to get involved?
If they wanna, so typically everything is on our website. And we do give a lot of things. We offer a lot of things virtually. So you don't have to be, technically, you need to be physically there. Like all the webinars are given virtually, so they can check our website. On our website, we have all the events that are offered by each of the chapters, and they can look up which one they're interested in, and they just have to sign up for the webinar that they want to participate in. For the leadership development program, usually there is a deadline. So it starts at a certain time of the year. Usually it's around January. And the same goes for the mentorship program. It usually starts at during a certain time. So I always say to keep an eye to the website as well as to follow our Instagram pages, because each chapter has their own page, and they can definitely message us. There will always be someone who will be able to respond to them.
Now, you touched on this a little bit when you talked about the women's empowerment, and that was imposter syndrome. So, do we see women in leadership a lot of times have imposter syndrome, and how can they combat that to kind of get over that hump that the imposter syndrome holds them back?
Yes, unfortunately we do see that, and it's very common among women. And we did have webinars about imposter syndrome and how they can combat that, how they can overcome that. Unfortunately, it's very difficult because I think, as I said before, women tend to, undervalue themselves. They don't believe in their talent and their skills. And then you have imposter syndrome that hits you. So one of the things that we always tell people is to normalize this feeling and to basically, think about your accomplishment, to celebrate your accomplishment, to of course talk to mentors. We also have like coaching where people can talk about, this imposter syndrome and how, it's really not about you at the end. We try to talk about it. I think that's the main thing that we've been doing, is to having discussions and to really be able to write down your wins, your accomplishment, your achievement, to celebrate those things. That has been one of the things that we've been basically sharing through our webinars, to the workshop that we have provided. It does take time. I think with imposter syndrome, it does take time, because I have, even in my personal life, even with people that I connect with, they also told me the same thing. They feel like they're not good enough in their job. They don't feel like they deserve their job. And it just sucks. It just sucks because I think we as women, we lack the confidence in that sense. But I always say it always starts from yourself, and it starts from the self-belief that you're capable of doing anything. So if you can basically put that in your brain, then your brain is wired to act accordingly, and everything will fall accordingly. Like everything will set accordingly. So it's really starts from your self-belief that you can do pretty much everything you want in life.
That's awesome, because
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of people think you can just, you said that it takes time. And I feel like a lot of
Yeah.
people think you can just get over it, right? It's, you feel this way, and here, let me show you your accomplishments, and then there it's gone. And realistically, that's not how it works. And so, I think that was a very, very important point for a lot of people to hear and try to internalize, is that we
yeah,
probably have a lot of people that we work with or work for, or that work for us, that have this imposter
yeah,
syndrome.
yeah,
And it's not something that's going to be just gone tomorrow. It's
yeah,
going to take that time, that reinforcement, for it to slowly go away, and it may never fully go away. Right.
yeah, 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 for sure. Yeah.
Great. You know, I've been a leader in my company for a long time now, and I've had the pleasure of working for very strong women leaders. And I have, even now, a very strong group of young women leaders that work for me, and they're probably the next up and comers in my organization. They are very, very good, and I'm impressed by them every single day. And I do tend to wonder and think, do we find that it is more difficult for women to give feedback in a professional organization? And also, kind of in the same vein, have we seen that it's more difficult for other people to accept the feedback from women versus men?
Yeah. I first of all, I do think it's always very hard for people to accept feedback from women because we're not taken seriously. And I also think it's hard for the women to give feedback because I think we often, our emotions take over. So we're always like thinking about, oh, we don't want to hurt the person. We don't want to be too harsh on the person. But then, like, for instance, if I think of myself giving feedback, then I think about, okay, well, how would a man give a feedback? How would he do it? So why am I concerned about how the person would
Right.
feel? And unfortunately, here's the problem is that there is also this bias that someone who is being harsh, like a woman being harsh, she's seen as like bossy, not, she's trying to be authoritative. Like we don't come across as, in a way, seen as a strong gender.
Right.
And that's why people don't take us seriously. And I think it's a notion that it's like already there from like a long time ago. So it's very hard because the whole society is biased towards these things. Usually you take much more seriously a feedback from a man. You accept much more, like you accept without any issues the feedback from a man as well. So I always say like it also depends. Is it a woman giving a feedback to another woman, or is it a woman giving a feedback to a man? Because for instance, I had female managers, and I had two different kind of female managers. So I had a person who was very assertive, and I would take everything that she would tell me like seriously, and I would always look up to her. And then I had another manager who was a little bit more, she was a little bit softer in that sense. Like she would always like be worried about how the person would feel. She would always feel guilty. So it also, it depends on the personality of the person. But I think you being as a manager, you have to like live outside that side of you, because you are in a professional setting. And if you want people to take seriously, you have to act seriously as well. Like you can't be worried about how someone will feel. And it's not about also giving negative feedback. It's about giving constructive feedback that will help the person. And I think in that sense, you start to be a better leader as well, because you're able to build also that emotional intelligence. You try to be like empathetic, but not to the point that you take that home and that you cry about how you made the other person feel. So you really have to understand yourself, but there are different personalities in companies. So, because I also think that even some men, they can give feedback, but you might not take them seriously, So you
Right.
also have to be able to perceive who's a better leader. Yeah.
Right. I think it's a lot of things that people don't think about, is just that thought process, right? And not being taken seriously, and how, we as the feedback receivers can help, because feedback's tough. I always hear feedback's a gift, right? Because it's there to make us better, but feedback itself is tough to accept sometimes, especially when it's, negative feedback that's supposed to make us feel better. But when you have the person giving the feedback also questioning themselves, it makes it for a very tough situation.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, I had also male managers, but I never felt they were a good leader, for instance. Like, I always felt like they were doing like the job because it was written on the paper that this is what they had to do. But for instance, when I look for like into like when I look up a manager or a leader, I always look for someone who's able to inspire me, So even a male manager, yeah, he can be great at his job, but if he's not able to inspire me, I don't see how it's benefiting me. So I think the person being on the other side, you have to be able to identify these kind of people who are able to push you to get out of your comfort zone, who push you to be better, who push you to try new things. And I think that's fundamental. Like you always want to have someone who's cheering for you rather than just giving you a pat on the back because you I don't know, you completed something and that was it. You know, it's really about getting outside of the comfort zone.
Right. No, that's great. So those are all the questions I had. Do you have any final comment or call to action from the listeners that you'd like to share?
Yeah, I would say my call of action, and that's also because I'm a big advocate for mentorship, is no matter where you are in your career, always look for connections, whether it's through mentoring, whether it's like connecting with people, because we have like coffee chats, so random coffee chat at our company where you get randomly matched with someone, and I always find those conversation valuable. I would say to always look up for information through people, always connect with people because you never know the information that you can find valuable for yourself and how you can also learn. Like you get a lot of guidance through this little connection that you have and they make a huge impact in your career. So that's my suggestion, to always like engage with people, connect with people, find a mentor, find a coach within your company, because these are like valuable benefits.
Perfect. Glad to hear that. So thank you very much. For everybody listening, if you have any comments, questions for any of us, you can leave the comments in the YouTube page. You can also send me an email at leadinquarters@gmail.com or go onto our Instagram at leadinquarters. Again, on the YouTube page, I'll have all of the links to the Women in Leadership Foundation and background and all of her social media as well. And please check her out. There's a lot of great work. Obviously, you've seen a lot of her experience here in this episode, but there's definitely more to dive into. So please feel free to contact her as well with any questions, and anybody who wants to get involved with Women in Leadership Foundation, please feel free. It seems like a very, very great program, and I'm very impressed with everything that I've seen on the website. Yeah. So thank you very much, Urmi. I appreciate your time, and thank you for giving your perspective to all the listeners.
Thank you.
Thank you.